Somewhere outside Tallinn, there is a second-floor office. A kitchenware shop sits underneath it. A nail salon sits next door. This summer, reporters went looking for that office. They found a lobby mailbox that had been filling for months. Nobody had emptied it. They asked the women working in the nail salon a simple question. Had anyone ever gone upstairs? Nobody could remember a single person walking through that door. That address belonged to a cryptocurrency exchange. The exchange claimed 1.3 million customers. It sponsored the Polish Olympic Committee. It put its name on football clubs in 3 countries. In January, it turned up in Davos. In April, its chief executive told those customers not to worry. He said the company held 4,500 Bitcoin, $330 million, safe in reserve. Analysts checked the public ledger the same week. They found 0.08 of a single Bitcoin, about $9,700. And by then, both of the men who ran the company had vanished. This is the Veritas Brief from Veritas Europaea. We are a reader-funded publication covering European political economy. We take one story a week and we take our time with it. Today we are in Poland and Estonia. We are tracing the collapse of Zondacrypto and the disappearance of the 2 men who ran it. We want to be clear about one thing before we start. This story runs on 3 different kinds of evidence, and we will keep them separate the whole way through. Some of what follows sits in the public blockchain record. We will call that documented. Some of it comes from the company itself. We will call that claimed. And some of it comes from politicians without a single charge filed. We will call that alleged. Keeping those 3 apart is the whole job today. Let us start with the machine itself, because the mechanics matter later. Zondacrypto ran what the industry calls a custodial exchange. You sent it zloty, or euro, or pounds. The company held your money. You then traded against roughly 50 coins and tokens. The company held the private keys, not you. That distinction decides everything that follows. That model creates exactly one obligation above all others. The operator must hold enough assets to pay everybody who asks to leave. Exchanges normally handle this in 2 layers. They keep day-to-day traffic in what the industry calls a hot wallet. They park the bulk of customer assets in cold storage, offline, away from the internet. Remember those 2 layers. We will come back to them. The story starts in 2014 in Katowice. That is Poland's coal country. A man called Sylwester Suszek founded the platform there and named it BitBay. He was 26 years old. He was a miner's son. The Polish press eventually called him the crypto king. BitBay grew into the largest cryptocurrency exchange in Central and Eastern Europe. Most of its customers were Polish. For a while, it looked like the region's clearest success story. Then, in 2018, the regulator knocked. Poland's Financial Supervision Authority put the platform on its public warning list. It suspected unauthorized payment services. Suszek went looking for a friendlier country. Malta turned him down. Estonia did not. In October 2020, the business registered in Estonia as BB Trade Estonia. The brand became Zondacrypto. We want to slow down here because this is the part most coverage skips. Estonia handed out thousands of crypto licenses during the last decade. The country's financial intelligence unit supervised the companies that held them. And that supervision had a very specific shape. The Estonian regulator checked whether a company's paperwork met the legal requirements. It did not verify that customer funds existed. It did not audit custody arrangements. Read that again, because it is the hinge of this entire story. For years, nobody whose job it was to look ever actually checked whether the money was there. We can measure how loose the regime had become. Estonia held 641 valid crypto licenses in mid-2021. By the start of 2026, 36 survived. And there's a number from a 2022 Estonian report that stops us cold every time we read it. The regulator looked at the crypto firms under its supervision. Nearly 3/4 of them had filed 0 suspicious transaction reports in the whole of 2021. Not few, 0. Zondacrypto sat in that group. At the time, it claimed more than 1 million clients. The office above the kitchenware shop finishes the picture. Supervision existed. It existed almost entirely on paper. On the 10th of March 2022, Sylwester Suszek drove to a business meeting. The meeting took place at a fuel depot in Katowice, just outside Katowice. He was 34 years old. Nobody has seen him since. His family soon started receiving ransom demands. The demands asked for payment in Bitcoin. His sister later received a voicemail and handed it to investigators. On it, her brother pleaded for help. He said Bitcoin would set him free. His family now assumes the worst. Prosecutors eventually charged a close business associate of his. This was the man who ran the fuel depot. The charges were not small. Organized crime membership, large-scale VAT fraud, money laundering, and unlawful deprivation of liberty connected to the disappearance. Then that man disappeared too. So Poland lost the founder. And then Poland lost the main suspect in the founder's case. Suszek had sold the exchange in 2021, shortly before he vanished. Control passed to his own lawyer, a man called Przemysław Kral. Kral lived in Monaco. He ran the business from there, and he spent, visibly and constantly. He funded football clubs in Poland, Italy, and Estonia. He signed the Polish Olympic Committee as general sponsor through 2028. He put the brand on a hockey team at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Meanwhile, Estonian auditors were quietly asking a different question. They doubted whether the assets in the 2023 and 2024 accounts existed at all. We hear one question constantly from people who lost money here. How did I fall for this? We think Robert Nagaki, the Warsaw lawyer now representing those clients, answered it best. Look at the scale of the marketing. Football clubs in 3 countries, a National Olympic Committee, a platform at Davos. Machinery of that kind exists for one purpose. It disarms the vigilance of careful and experienced people. The shame belongs to the people who built the scheme. It does not belong to the people who believed it. The first real crack appeared in December 2025. Customers started posting about delayed withdrawals on the exchange's Polish Telegram channel. Complaints grew steadily through January. Administrators blamed high demand and new security procedures. But one detail should have set off alarms immediately. The same complaints never appeared on the global channel. They never appeared on the Italian channel. That asymmetry does not describe a technical fault. A technical fault hits everybody. This hit Poland. In late March 2026, a blockchain forensics firm called Recoverus decided to stop speculating and start testing. Its team opened accounts and placed withdrawal orders. Small orders cleared normally. Then, on the 1st of April, they placed a larger Bitcoin withdrawal. It sat pending for more than 14 hours. Then the exchange canceled it. So they went to the public ledger. And this is where cryptocurrency stops being mysterious and starts being useful. Recoverus traced flows across 6 different blockchains. It reviewed roughly 1 million addresses. It cross-checked 7 analytics providers. The whole thing took under 24 hours. Here is what they found. Zondacrypto's main-labeled Bitcoin hot wallet had held a monthly average of just under 56 Bitcoin in August 2024. By March 2026, that monthly average read 0.18 Bitcoin, a decline of 99.7%. And it was not a bad day. Across every single day of March 2026, the balance stayed under 1 Bitcoin. On 27 of those 31 days, it stayed under half a Bitcoin. On the 1st of April, it read 0.086, $9,700. Now, we promise to be careful. A low, hot wallet proves nothing on its own. Cold storage should hold the bulk. Recoverus said exactly that in its own analysis. So look at the peers. European exchanges of a comparable size held an average of 308 Bitcoin in their main hot wallets. And one benchmark ends the argument for us. Kuna is an exchange that operates out of Ukraine, out of a country at war. It held around 10 Bitcoin. Zondacrypto held less than 1/100th of one. We are going to pause here for 30 seconds, and we want to be straight with you about why. Veritas Europaea takes no advertising. We run no sponsored segments. Nobody pays us to cover a story, and nobody pays us to leave one alone. That matters enormously on an episode like this one. The exchange you are hearing about bought advertising across Polish media for years. It bought sports sponsorship. It bought a platform at Davos. It bought the appearance of a legitimate business. We could not have taken its money. That is the entire point. Readers and listeners fund us instead, directly. That is the whole model. If this episode is worth your time, please consider supporting it. Everything we publish stays free to read and free to listen to. Membership is patronage, not a paywall. You will find the link in the show notes and at our website. Back to Poland in a moment. The second finding traced where the assets actually went. Between mid-December 2025 and the 2nd of April 2026, Recoverus identified 511 separate transfers. All of them went from Zondacrypto wallets to one single deposit address at another exchange, Kraken. Those transfers totaled roughly $21 million. They spanned 30 different assets. They crossed all 6 chains. That is not a technical migration. That is a pipeline. Then the analysts did something clever. They lined up 2 graphs. The first graph tracked stablecoin flows to that Kraken address, month by month. The second tracked the volume of angry customer complaints on Telegram. The 2 lines moved almost together. The statistical correlation came out at 0.92. Correlation never proves causation. We will say that plainly. But at that strength, it demands an explanation. The company never offered one. The analysis went public on the 6th of April through the Polish outlet money.pl. The next day, something strange happened. The exchange's Ethereum wallet received 2 large deposits worth around $1.15 million in stablecoins. The route those funds took looked nothing like normal business. The value started as one stablecoin, swapped into another on a decentralized exchange, then moved through 8 sequential addresses. Each of those 8 addresses handled exactly 1 payment in and 1 payment out. None had any other history. The hops came about 2 minutes apart. Compliance professionals have a word for that pattern. They call it layering. And within 48 hours, the exchange forwarded about 2/3 of that money straight onto the same Kraken address. There is one more piece of arithmetic here, and we think it is the sharpest in the whole file. Under pressure from the coverage, Zondacrypto started publishing daily figures. It said, each day, how much it had paid out to customers. It kept that up for exactly 3 days. Then, it stopped. The analysts took those 3 days and checked them against the ledger. The numbers matched. But they only matched on one condition. You had to exclude every transfer going to that Kraken address. Think about what that means. If those transfers had been customer withdrawals, the company's own published totals would have been far higher. The company left them out of its own count, which suggests the company itself controlled that address, not its users. Recoverus asked the exchange to confirm or deny that it owned the address. The exchange never replied. On the 16th of April, Sylwester Kral posted an 18-minute video. He displayed a wallet address. He said it held 4,500 Bitcoin, worth more than $330 million. He told customers the money was there. Then he delivered the sentence that defines this entire case. The company could not access the private keys. Only Sylwester Suszek had ever held them. Suszek had been missing for 4 years. Analysts checked that address within minutes. It had sat completely dormant since 2016. It showed no visible connection to any known company wallet and none to any known Suszek wallet. And a wallet that nobody can move is, for every practical purpose, an empty one. After that, the collapse ran fast. The company's own deadline to restart withdrawals expired on the 17th. Withdrawals stayed frozen. The chief compliance officer resigned. Then the entire Estonian supervisory board resigned. The directors gave a reason in writing. They cited material inconsistencies between the company's public statements and its operational reality. On the 21st, Kral signed a farewell note to staff. On the 23rd of April, the website went dark. Somebody shut down the corporate email and the company's Slack on the same day. That 16th of April video is the last time anybody heard from Przemysław Kral. Reports have placed him in Israel, in Botswana, in Dubai. None of those sightings carry any confirmation. His own client's lawyer thinks he is in Southeast Asia. 4 years after the founder vanished, his successor vanished too. The New York Times put that to Robert Nogacki this month. He gave them the line they chose to close the piece. It was a fraud from the first day. Estonia revoked the license on the 29th of June, and the timing here is almost too neat. Europe's new crypto rulebook, MiCA, gave firms on old national licenses until the 1st of July to transition. Zondacrypto's Estonian license died 2 days before that deadline. In Poland, this has become a political crisis. In April, Prime Minister Donald Tusk addressed Parliament. The exchange's rise began, he said, with the money of the Russian mafia. He also invoked Russian security services and right-wing politicians. We want to be careful here, and we would ask you to be careful too. Those remain political assessments. No prosecutor has filed a charge alleging Russian state involvement. Kral has called the allegation absurd. Then came this week. Roman Giertych, one of Poland's best-known defense lawyers, revealed he has represented Kral since May. Giertych is also a sitting MP for Tusk's own party. He says his client has placed, quote, a vast fortune at the prosecutor's disposal. Prosecutors have not publicly confirmed that. The same day, the Justice Minister announced a breakthrough. Investigators are now tracing money that flowed from the exchange towards Polish politicians and connected organizations. The opposition rejects the whole framing. Zbigniew Ziobro confirmed his foundation took 450,000 zloty from Kral's law firm. He says he stopped once doubts emerged, and he accuses the government of going easy on Kral because Kral has become politically useful. We will let his own words stand. This, he said, is the desperation of a regime fighting for its own future impunity. Underneath the politics, the practical work has moved. Investigators seized 104 devices from the company's Polish servers. They took more than 13 terabytes of data. Prosecutors froze €4 million sitting in a French bank account. An Estonian court has barred the company from selling anything and appointed an interim trustee. And in early August, prosecutors merged 2 files into one. The fraud investigation now sits in the same case as the disappearance of Sylwester Suszek. 4 years on, the 2 stories have finally become a single story. So where does that leave the people who actually lost money? Prosecutors have received several thousand criminal complaints. They estimate the damage at a minimum of 350 million zloty. That is roughly €81 million. The investigation now runs until January. And 4 questions stay open. Nobody knows what happened to Sylwester Suszek. Nobody knows where Przemysław Kral is tonight. Nobody has verified that the 4,500 Bitcoin ever existed. And nobody yet knows which wallets held customer money or who controlled them. We want to leave you with the thing that keeps striking us about this case. Every single number we gave you today sat in public, on an open ledger, the entire time. Anybody could have read it. For 18 months, almost nobody did. The regulator checked the paperwork. The auditors raised doubts and got nowhere. The sponsorship money kept flowing. The ledger was right there, and the ledger does not forget. This has been the Veritas Brief from Veritas Europea. We publish the full investigation with the charts and the source documents on our website. If you were a Zondacrypto customer, we would like to hear from you. You will find our contact details in the show notes. Our readers and listeners fund this show. Nobody else does. If you can support that, please do. We will be back next week.